I just as of recently bought another 58 shares of JEPQ at around $51.47 per share, which equates to around a $3,000 transaction in one single buy. Now in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why I made one of my biggest stock or ETF purchases at one time in a while in ticker symbol JEPQ, or the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF. I want to explain exactly why I did this, my plan moving forward, and why I think JEPQ might be one of the best covered call ETFs across the entire market. Now, if you personally own any JEPQ or have ever thought about it before, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. I just finished my brand new dividend investing ebook where I share exactly how I went from zero to now over 7 figures invested, and also on how I earned more than $6,000 per month in dividends. I also finished my custom dividend tracker that you can use to track your dividend income progress on an ongoing basis. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So before I go over my purchase of JEPQ and explain my reasoning for the purchase and my plan moving forward when it comes to JEPQ, just to go over some of the basics, right here on the JP Morgan website, it says JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium ETF. JEPQ seeks to deliver monthly distributable income and Nasdaq 100 exposure, but with less volatility. It then says under portfolio, underlying equity portfolio employs an applied data science approach to fundamental research and portfolio construction, but then with that disciplined option overlays, implements written out of the money Nasdaq 100 index call options that seek to generate distributable monthly income. Now, like I said, when it comes to covered call ETFs, I truthfully think that JEPQ might be one of the best across the entire market, and the reason being is the fact that JEPQ uses sort of at this point a common covered call premium generating strategy that a lot of other covered calls use at this point. But most important when it comes to JEPQ, I'm a huge fan of the top holdings and the top sectors that JEPQ offers. But before we go through JEPQ's holdings and I explain exactly why I'm so fond of them and the sectors that JEPQ invests into, looking at JEPQ's performance on the 1-year time frame, and this is just price return for a covered call ETF, which is super impressive, considering covered call ETFs more or less normally trade sideways throughout most markets or even down because, of course, covered calls do cap the upside potential. But JEPQ is up 22% of the 1-year time frame, and on the max time frame since around May of 2022, JEPQ is only up 6.67%, but the total return is definitely pretty massive because the dividends that JEPQ offers are really significant. Now we get to the good part. This is one of the main reasons I'm a really big fan of JEPQ is because of the sector breakdown. Now JEPQ has a majority of the ETF built out in things like technology, communications, and consumer cyclical. Now, because there's so much technology focus in this ETF, JEPQ has the potential, and definitely has at least so far, really grown in ETF price, even once again with that covered call overlay, which shows that at least in the covered call ETF space, JEPQ has a lot to offer that some of the others don't. Now, JEPQ, of course, has the Nasdaq covered call overlay, but some of the top holdings of JEPQ are things like Microsoft at 7.68% as of current. Then the majority of the portfolios in things like Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, etc. Now, I showed you the price return so far when it comes to JEPQ, but the main reason I loaded up on 3,000 shares of JEPQ is obviously no secret. I'm trying to grow the dividend income throughout my 7-figure portfolio, and honestly at this point there's not all that many different high yield ETFs or stocks that I would consider to do so, again at least in a large amount. Sure, maybe I'll buy a few shares of TSLY or Coney here and there, even some SVOL, but all in small portions. When I'm talking thousands of dollars, this is probably the only covered call higher than average yielding ETF that I would consider for my portfolio as of this time. Now, JEPQ has a trailing 12-month dividend yield of around 9.73%, which is definitely impressive. And although if we look at the complete JEPQ dividend history from the fund's inception, the dividends have been a little bit smaller than they were, let's say, back in 2022, but overall they've been pretty consistent, and I'm very happy with buying into a low volatility ETF that's offering, say, a 9 or 10% yield all day. I do have a few more impressive things to show you guys. If you look at JEPQ and stack it up next to the S&P 500, which of course is sort of the gold standard, the S&P 500 is definitely a great wealth generating vehicle. There's no arguing that. But if we were to stack up JEPQ and use total return as the metric, so this is dividends plus share price return included, on the 1-year time frame or 365 days, you see that JEPQ's returned 35.92%, where S&P's returned 20.69%. Now, don't get me wrong, as a long-term dividend growth investor, I'm very happy with either one of these returns. I'd be ecstatic earning 20% per year or 35% per year, but what is pretty crazy is that at least over this time frame, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen every single year moving forward, but over this specific time frame, JEPQ almost returned double that of the S&P 500. Now, the reason being is, like I said, JEPQ has a basket of holdings that have really shown to grow during times where the market really wants to rip, and on top of that, even with that cover call overlay, JEPQ has performed outstandingly. Now, I really wish there was more data to go off of when it comes to JEPQ's performance on the longer term time frame, but as we know, JEPQ's only been around for a few years, which is again why I personally would never have something like JEPQ as the majority of my portfolio. But for me personally, if I'm looking for an asset that has the potential to raise the dividend income throughout my portfolio, but also is not going to decay like a lot of those other covered call ETFs, which I'm going to show you here in a second, JEPQ is an amazing option and definitely one you guys should all look into. Now, I mentioned a second ago that JEPQ has not decayed like a lot of the other income strategy cover call style ETFs. And again, this is sort of comparing apples to oranges because of course JEPQ and TSLY, for example, have way different strategies. But still, the truth is the truth, and a lot of these different cover call style ETFs that are sort of set out to generate massive income like TSLY, although generate massive income in the form of dividends, have decayed substantially over time. And the exact same thing has happened with something like QYLD, the Global X Nasdaq 100 cover call ETF. Although Q yield has performed pretty good on the dividend front, this ETF has continued to move lower and lower in ETF price over the years. So I guess the question moving forward is, will JEPQ continue to perform like it's been performing over the past years and continue to pay nice sized dividends on a monthly basis? I suppose only time will tell. But as far as a cover call sort of income focused strategy ETF, JEPQ, like I said, is the one and only one that I'd be comfortable with as of this moment, grabbing more shares of, which is exactly what I did today. But when it comes to cover call income style ETFs and JEPQ, I want to hear from you guys down below. Do you currently own any JEPQ and have any of it in your portfolio as of current? And if not, what is your number one favorite income generating style ETF that you've been buying as of crazy over the past few years? Drop it in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.